Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 406 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Congressman Andy Biggs is here at 5 o'clock. He'll talk about that dramatic vote that got Speaker Mike Johnson across the finish line again today in the House. And then Congressman Scott Perry is also here with us at 5:30. He'll weigh in on that, as well as this presidential medal Joe Biden just gave to Liz Cheney because she earned it, you know. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Before we get to our next guest, we do have breaking news out of New York that Judge Juan Merchan, who is just awful, let's be honest, has decided that Donald Trump, President Trump's sentencing will take place January 10th. That's the breaking news. But the AP reports he signals no jail time. How nice of him. They say, in an extraordinary turn, a judge Friday set President-elect Donald Trump's sentencing in his hush money case for January 10th, little over a week before he's due to return to the White House, but promised not to jail him. Judge Juan M. Merchan, who presided over Trump's trial, signaled in a written decision that he'd sentence the former and future president to what's known as a conditional discharge, in which a case gets dismissed if a defendant avoids rearrest. What? So, okay, I think you're safe. I don't think Trump, unless, you know, some other idiot Democrat prosecutor decides to do it, I don't think Trump's getting arrested. I think we're safe. That's not going to happen. The fact is, Juan Merchan, he should be dismissing this case right now with prejudice. Get rid of it. It should have never happened in the first place. But he's not, because he's a political hack. And so he's trying to, in his own tyrannical way, his little sliver of power, he wants to use it to keep this thing on top of Trump and let it dog him for a little bit, even though, again, the AP reports this is a conditional discharge in which a case gets dismissed if Trump avoids rearrest. Well, then, if it's going to be dismissed in the end anyway, just dismiss it now. Why are you wasting everybody's time? But that's Judge Juan Merchan for you. His behavior has been appalling throughout this entire process, and this is a par for the course for that guy. All right. Joining us now is a bit of a palate cleanser, a guy who's much more friendly to talk to. David Strom is here. He's the associate editor over at Hot Air. David, good to have you back with us.
Hey, it's great to be back in the new year. And I actually have a theory. I'm not a lawyer, but I have a theory for why Merchan is doing that. And it boils down to this. Right now, technically, even though everyone has been told that Trump is a convicted felon, legally, as I understand it, at least in New York, he is not a convicted felon until he is sentenced. And so this would put a period after the convicted felon thing. Now, I think that the appeals court is going to toss it no matter what, because the case is so absurd. But I think this really is just a little twist of the knife.
Yeah, and just to remind people of the underlying facts, because I don't want to gloss over them, like they literally turned a legal expense into a federal criminal law violation that was charged at the state level, and then he was found guilty of that in a court that was rigged against him. And the whole thing, you know, it was Jonathan Turley has, I think, referred to this on a repeated basis as a Rube Goldberg style legal construction in order to try and find Trump guilty of literally anything. And all educated legal observers who aren't trying to destroy Trump, they look at this and they go, this is insane that this was even brought, and yet here we are late in this very stupid saga, which is only designed to hurt him. It's only designed to try and, muddy him up. It's the wrap-up smear, as Nancy Pelosi calls it, David Strom.
Oh, no, that is absolutely the case. I mean, from the very beginning, every legal thing that has happened to Trump has been absolute smear jobs. I mean, the E. Jean Carroll case, was funded by Reid Hoffman, the same
Yes.
guy who, ran the ads. You have to vote for Trump for Kamala Harris if you want to keep your pornography. I mean, these people. He literally.
Wait, he ran an
that.
ad. He ran an ad that says, "Vote for Kamala to keep your pornography."
Oh, absolutely. You can look it up. And it was run online. Oh, yeah. Just these people are total degenerates.
Well, that's the guy. Reid Hoffman is the LinkedIn co-founder. Got super rich off of that, and he's the guy who Elon Musk was saying wanted to spend all of this money to stop Trump because Elon contends that Reid Hoffman is scared that Epstein's client list is going to go public when Trump returns to office. Isn't that?
There are a lot of people who I think are desperately concerned about that because, not just that they are defending their own, but this is also blackmail material. You have to where how many bizarre things that we have seen. I mean, how many times have you seen things in government or in the private sector where you say that makes no sense? Well, a lot of these people are on these lists. I don't know whether they're getting blackmailed, but oh my gosh, there's a lot of information buried inside the FBI in these evidence files, and you do have to wonder.
Well,
and the FBI has done that before. I mean, we know that. That was J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes, that was the whole deal. Hoover was spying on everybody. Hoover was spying. They were spying on Kissinger, and they were spying on everybody in order to have things they could hold against them in order to wield power over them. That's the nature of blackmail. And with these lists of people who went to parties or events or perhaps partook in the most obscene kind of criminality against children, for instance. You see all of this, whether it's like the P. Diddy case or the Jeffrey Epstein case and all of the people who are being, there's just a rumor mill going on everybody who might be associated with all of it. And then you look at that and you go, well, no wonder people become conspiracy theorists. They begin theorizing about who might be involved in very real things that have definitely taken place.
Oh, absolutely. And, you could look over, they're having the same controversy in Great Britain right now where the grooming gangs, so those weren't really grooming gangs, they were rape gangs. And the police covered this up, not once, not twice, but thousands of times over decades. And Keir Starmer, the current Prime Minister of Great Britain, was at the Crown Prosecution Service, and he refused to prosecute many of these people. And you have to wonder why.
Yes.
Now, I don't know the answer, but it sure seems like a lot of very bad people, and provably so, have risen to the very top, and the evidence just seems to get buried.
But what this is, though, is a cover-up for their betrayals of their countrymen. That's what it is, and they don't want to focus on the fact that massive migration, uncontrolled, has had some downside consequences. And so when those consequences become clear to the public, they just go about pretending like they never occurred.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, we were originally going to talk about Joe Biden, and Joe Biden actually fits this pattern perfectly.
Yes.
I mean, you see now after the election and everything else, suddenly you have pictures showing up of him meeting with hunters, business partners,
Chinese business partners.
Yeah, and Hunter introducing, or Biden introducing Hunter to Xi Jinping, all these things that were denied. And now my theory is, and this is just a theory, is that Biden is now so compromised that the people behind them understand that there's nothing left to lose. And Biden literally has nothing left to lose because he's going out the door and his reputation is in absolute tatters, and it's just going to get worse and worse as the Trump people come into the FBI and start dumping a lot of this information. And so I expect over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see Biden doing all sorts of outrageous things
Yes.
because there's no point not to. I mean, it's not like he's got a legacy, and it's not even like he's sentient. So all the people behind him basically have free reign.
And everything is like the next betrayal. You know, it's whether it's like selling off pieces of the border wall to avoid Trump being able to construct it when he gets into office, or giving out clemency to 37 of the 40 people on death row in the United States. The only 3 that are still on death row include the Tree of Life synagogue shooter and the guy who shot up the church in South Carolina. But then they have a plea arrangement with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed so that he doesn't get the death penalty. Make it make sense other than as a series of middle fingers to the American people. It's completely brazen.
Oh, yeah, and they're still, I mean, they have tripled down on going after the January 6 people. I mean,
yes.
they've been doing dragnets, even though they know that, Trump is going, obviously these are not people who were ever violent or anything else. It's 4 years after the fact. These were not exactly mastermind criminals that you could talk about. They're talking about grandmothers who walk through the Capitol, but they want to stab Trump and MAGA in the back. And they're going to push through some executive orders that, while Trump will eventually be able to overturn them, there will be a legal basis to drag things out for months or even years. And that's what it's all about is, delay.
Yeah. And that, by the way, that's like such a crappy system. The president of the United States should not be allowed to sabotage his successor with executive orders. Obviously, if it's something that has the force of law, then of course you have to go to Congress. But an executive order, you can't just claw it back instantly. What a demented feature of our system. It exists.
Yeah. I mean, and what we know is these things are going to go first to the D.C. Circuit in the appeals, which is, of course, stacked with liberal Democrats. And so it's going to take time to work its way through the legal system up to the circuit court and maybe the Supreme Court. And so something where there is no legal basis to prevent Donald Trump from overturning it still will take a lot of time and effort to do it. And it's purely to sabotage. I expect a lot of this.
Yes. So you think that President Trump's going to come into office and have a lot of landmines that have already been placed in front of him?
Well, yeah, and we saw the first move. I think it was the first move when Trump said he wanted federal employees to come back, and suddenly Joe Biden signing a contract with thousands of federal employees that gives them, I think, 4 years where they don't have to come back to the office. It's just utterly outrageous. The American people voted for one thing, and they're going to try to make sure we get as little of it as possible. They also have reopened the border to a lot of people. There are caravans of people coming in. It really is just pure sabotage. And I don't even know how much Biden knows about any of this stuff. He may know about all of it, or it may just be the people behind him. By now, we know that the guy is not president.
No.
So, which is the other thing, it's the people behind him have literally nothing to lose, because the more they do, the more they're going to be rewarded when they get outside of government. I mean, one of the things that the Trump people have to do, there's going to be very limited opportunity to prosecute people, and they really shouldn't go after anyone where they don't have an open and shut case, because that's just going to create a huge mess. But they should blackball each and every one of these people and make sure they never work in Washington again.
Yeah.
And they do have the power to do that, because, think of Mark Milley. I don't know whether you could win a court-martial or not, but the guy is on a lot of boards and pulling in a lot of money. And basically, if the president, calls these guys up and says, as long as you got Mark Milley on the board or you're shoveling money in his direction, forget working with the federal government. And, I think if, Chase Manhattan or General Dynamics, I'm just throwing names out, they want to work with the federal government more than they want to be with Mark Milley. I think they should do this. Just every single one of these malefactors should be at minimum blackballed.
Yeah, for sure. And how about strict security clearances? None of these guys should have them. If you're working against the American people, if you're working against the president's agenda, which is a reflection of the will of the people, you shouldn't be involved at all. You should be out and not have access. Hey, David Strom, Happy New Year to you. Thanks for all your excellent work at Hot Air and your time today, as always, sir. Coming up on the program, we're going to talk to a couple of congressmen who were involved with the big speaker vote today, because that's their job. They've got to be involved in that. As we're joined by Congressman Andy Biggs at 5 o'clock and Congressman Scott Perry at 5:30. We'll talk about all of that. Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House yet again, this time for the 119th Congress. He has President Trump to thank for that, including because apparently President Trump got on the phone with Congresswoman Nancy Mace, I believe, according to Chad Pergram today from the Fox News Channel. Nancy Mace, who was supporting Johnson, she pulled these two congressmen, Norman and Self. That's Congressman Ralph Norman and Keith Self. Those were the holdouts today for Mike Johnson, who ended up finally voting for Johnson in the end. But this is apparently how it went down. Nancy Mace gets a hold of Norman and Self and takes them to a side office near the floor with Speaker Johnson, according to Chad Pergram. President Trump was on speakerphone, presumably Nancy Mace's speakerphone. And President Trump reportedly said, according to Brett Baer at the Fox News Channel, quote, "It would be disrespectful to Americans who voted in an historic presidential election to have this speaker's vote go to a second or third ballot. And it would be disrespectful to me," the president apparently said. He ended with, quote, "Fellas, we have a lot to do. Let's get to it." And then they went back to the floor at that moment and apparently changed their votes to Mike Johnson. That's the claim coming out of the Fox News is reporting about how all of this went down today. Just a reminder yet again that Mike Johnson has a lot to thank President Trump for. He owes President Trump here for his job, clearly, including the fact that the Republicans even have control of the House right now. Now, as far as these lawmakers go, we'll get some of the reaction. I've seen they've been posting to social media about this, about what led them to finally pull the trigger to support Speaker Johnson. We'll get to all of that. I do have something funny for you, though, which is Hakeem Jeffries, who is, once again, the minority leader today, addressing the entire Congress, said that as a member of Congress, we need to, quote, "fart hard for the freedom to vote."
The American dream possible. We will fight hard for the freedom to vote.
Those are always good. Those are always fun to have. Also, Kamala Harris was swearing in members of the United States Senate today. And did you know that Kamala Harris has no idea what the words of the Pledge of Allegiance are? You're probably not surprised. Here's Kamala Harris today attempting to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And here as she mutters off, as she trails off, she can't even get it right.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the...
I pledge allegiance to the United States of the United States of America, says Kamala Harris. Man, we dodged a bullet. We dodged a bullet there. President Trump was hit by one during the campaign. How quickly everyone moved on from that. But he took one so the rest of us could dodge one. Unbelievable. I can't believe they did that. They really tried to make her president of the United States. Thank you for preventing that from happening. Coming up, Andy Biggs will be here, Scott Perry will be here, and your calls all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 4:35, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Congressman Andy Biggs will join us and talk about Speaker Johnson returning to that role today, getting exactly the number of votes he needed to do it. And then Congressman Scott Perry is here at 5:30. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Speaking of members of Congress, some concern about North Carolina Congresswoman Virginia Foxx right now because apparently she fell down in the House today, presumably after the vote. I'm seeing here some posts on social media from an ABC reporter by the name of John Parkinson. A bleeding Representative Virginia Foxx is currently receiving medical attention, holding her nose as she receives aid. Appears to have fallen down marble stairs on the west side of the House. Lots of blood, but officer tells me she is okay as the press is cleared from the area. She is conscious and she is talking. So prayer up for Congresswoman Foxx as she recovers from that. That's, gosh, that's rough. That's some of the news out of the House today. All right. Let's see. Hey, I see police have been giving updates today in Las Vegas about the guy who blew up the Cybertruck out in front of the Trump Hotel. We've learned a lot about the jihadi guy, the ISIS guy, who attacked New Orleans, but there's just a lot of confusing information coming in about the guy who blew up the Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. I was citing for you yesterday from The Independent, which claims that his uncle said that he's a patriot, that he's a Trump supporter. They talked about his time in Special Forces. He's a Green Beret. The uncle also had indicated that he thought that the bomb was pretty amateurish, given his vast experience in the military, especially with the ability to make explosives, in that if he really wanted to hurt somebody, he would definitely know how to do it. We have some more information today. Lots is coming out. So hopefully we'll have a more complete picture of it coming up soon. But the New York Post has a report that this Army Ranger, Matthew Livelsberger is his name, was boasting to an ex-girlfriend about renting the Tesla Cybertruck days before he killed himself and blew up the vehicle outside of that Trump International Hotel. He claimed he felt like Batman, apparently. The 37-year-old Army soldier playfully reached out to his old flame, whose name is Alicia Arrett, at 9 a.m. when he was in Denver. That was on December 29th, days after he had left his Colorado Springs home, because his wife had confronted him for allegedly cheating on her. Quote, I rented a Tesla Cybertruck, he wrote to, again, this is his ex he sent this message to. He said, it's the bleep. I mean, he likes the car. He really likes it. According to text messages that were obtained by the Denver Gazette, he said he felt like he was in Batman or Halo, the video game. The video game Halo, the car, one of the cars, or the car in Halo, looks very much like the Tesla Cybertruck, so that's what he's comparing it to. And then they go on to point out that he parked the vehicle in the valet area of the Trump Hotel, where he, according to authorities, fatally shot himself in the head. They found a gun at his feet, and Livelsberger was the only person killed in the incident, and his body was burned beyond recognition. Authorities identified him from his passport and an Army ID that was found inside the truck. That Army ID, there are photos of it going around now, and it looks like it did sustain some burn damage. It was a little bit singed from the car, but somehow, it boggles my mind that this happened. His body was burned beyond recognition, as you just heard the New York Post describe it, but they did find the passport and the Army ID intact, so they were able to use that to establish his identity. Now, I do think it's important that we found out the detail that his wife had apparently confronted him about cheating on her. Insofar as dramatic things happen when relationships fall apart in tragic ways, typically that could be a predicate to people doing irrational things. And so you kind of have a combination of details coming out that perhaps he cheated on his wife. She confronted him about this. He's spiraling as a result of his marriage falling apart. He instantly just decides, I'm going to just do whatever I want, goes and rents. This is me just constructing it based on what little we know at this point. But he goes and he rents a Cybertruck. He's like, well, heck, I'll go rent it. He goes on Turo, finds somebody who owns a Cybertruck, rents it from them, jumps in the car, drives to Vegas, because where else would you go? If you're going to let loose, goes to Vegas, and then in the process, decides to blow up the truck itself in front of the Trump Hotel. Maybe he wanted attention. Maybe he wanted to maximize the attention that he would receive for it. Not entirely clear, but we're beginning to stitch together some pieces from all of this. We do have some of the audio from this press conference today. As Las Vegas police just a short while ago were describing it, they confirmed that the vehicle, the Tesla, was not in self-driving mode. We had a caller yesterday who suggested that might be the case, that potentially even that he was dead ahead of the arrival of the truck at the Trump Hotel. As I had done some research into this yesterday, and we'd seen some people pointing out, people who own Teslas, that as of right now, you can't do that with a Tesla. They have what's called full self-driving, but it's supervised full self-driving. And the way it works is the driver needs to be attentive to the road, and the vehicle, not to get all Big Brother on you or anything, but is monitoring your attention span, seeing whether or not you're actually being attentive in order to engage this full self-driving mode. So that would require you to be alive for that experience to take place. So cops today saying it was not in self-driving mode. And they also released some video footage. Let's take a listen to some audio here.
To match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route. Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident. Finally, the last category just to touch on.
All right, so that's a little bit of a clip there. I see Nick Sortor sharing some of these clips on X today on what the Las Vegas police have found. There is a manifesto that's circulating today from a podcaster, Navy SEAL, I believe, right? Sean Ryan he's got a pretty successful podcast. He claims that he received a manifesto in advance of the attack, or that I think he's a middleman for the manifesto. Somebody else obtained it. Either way, manifesto was sent, and the manifesto claims that he knows that the true reason for the drones in New Jersey is, and including that China has been launching them off the East Coast, and that they are the, quote, most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. I would take all of this with a very healthy grain of salt at the top, because first of all, we don't even know the guy who just killed himself, so we can't really speak to his credibility. But he did die in a ball of fire out in front of this Trump Hotel in Vegas. Here's cops today talking about some of this, I believe, and what they've learned and whether or not they can confirm that.
Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us.
We're reiterating. Just so obviously we're replaying some of the audio you've already heard, but this will get into some other, I think, important details.
To come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident. Finally, the last category just to touch on is motive, which I know everyone is very eager to try to understand and be able to explain what happened. I'll reiterate what the sheriff said is we still have a large volume of data to go through and a lot of content to go through. As you know, with any one of our devices, there's thousands, if not millions, of videos and photos and documents and web history and all of those things that need to be analyzed. But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application. He seemed to have two letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things, which we will do our best to release very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. I'd like to just also expand on that and understand that these are just excerpts in there. He does offer additional information that is varying on the spectrum in terms of political grievances, issues about the conflicts elsewhere, not here, domestic issues, societal issues, a variety of other things, including personal challenges as well. We are intending to release those initial letters so people can understand the best they can what the person's thought process was at one point in time. However, please understand there is still a lot more content to go through, and that may change. There may be a lot more information that we recover that explains either more or shows a change in mindset at different times.
All right, so a combination of factors potentially for why he did this, but it seems authorities are convinced that this really is a letter that he put out, or at least was in this. I think they were saying notes. I would assume that means on a notes app on his iPhone or his Mac devices. But they were able to obtain some sort of written documentation from him indicating something close to a motive. Although, as I point out, there's all this information coming out about his personal life being in turmoil too. So all of those things could be simultaneously true. But, you know, again, just sorting through all of the information as we get it. There's Las Vegas authorities commenting on that Cybertruck explosion as an active duty soldier takes his own life, it seems, in front of a Trump hotel. And we're just getting more details today. It's 4. All right, let's take a phone call. I've got Dee Dee calling in from Haymarket now on line 3. Hey, Dee Dee, you're on the Vince Coglianese show.
Hi, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. Love your show.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
I wanted to say that, you know, it used to be that the FBI was one of the most trusted organizations around with the federal government, but now they're a joke. I think that they all should be fired, and we ought to just rehire all brand new people. I was telling my husband the other day, I said, if I ever get kidnapped, I said, for heaven's sakes. He said, no, I would never go to the FBI. He said, because they wouldn't even know where to start looking for you.
Oh, my gosh. Isn't it unfortunate that, I mean, because this is an agency that is supposed to be protecting the American people and should have the faith of the American people that it's actually doing that. And instead, we get scandal after scandal where they're targeting Americans for political views and then allowing real criminals, real terrorists to conduct these awful attacks. It's too much. And so this is why I'm really hoping and praying that Kash Patel, one, gets confirmed and he can get through and become the FBI director, and then two, can clean that place up.
Absolutely. It certainly needs it. and all this stuff that's coming out about the guy who burned up in the Tesla. You know, they have put so much stuff that wasn't true, and then they backed up and said, no, that's not right, and then they backed up something else and said, no, that's not right. You don't know what to believe.
Yeah, have you noticed that the first reports appear to be always wrong,
Yes.
and you get a lot of bad information, and then eventually they try and cobble through and give you something better, I guess. But it's just annoying, you know. This is a big deal. These are attacks on the United States of America.
That's right.
And a competent administration would be sprinting clear answers out to you on why they took place and how to prevent them.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no transparency, and it leads you to believe that these people have no idea what they're doing. They're just grasping at straws because they tell you something, and a few minutes later they say, oh, no, we got another press conference. We're going to take it back. This is what it actually was. And, you know, it doesn't put much faith in the system, especially the FBI.
No,
not at all.
All right, Dee Dee. Hey, thank you. I'm with you right there. I'm very concerned, and I'd like to have a functional federal law enforcement agency. That'd be a really nice change of pace.
Maybe we will under this wonderful president, which has just made me so happy that he was elected. I have not been sad a day since November 5th. I have been ecstatic.
I know. I love it. Well, Dee Dee, thank you for that. I'm ecstatic you called today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince.
Yes, of course. That's Dee Dee in Haymarket. Yeah, no, it's a big deal. And you hope that, President Trump's been through the fire, a whole administration, where he's being targeted himself, and then beyond his administration, targeted himself by the very agencies that he once again is being called upon to lead. And I really hope that he has both the focus and the wisdom to be able to tackle those problems now, because they matter very much, not just because they attack him, but because they attack the rest of us. The FBI's they've been all over the place this week on this Islamist terror attacker, this ISIS guy down in New Orleans. And that started with them saying that it wasn't a terrorist attack, and he likely had, people who he was working with. There's a wider group of people, they believe. And then 24 hours later, some other FBI official pops out who's literally named Christopher Rea, which is unbelievable, and says, actually, yes, it was an act of terrorism, and no, he wasn't working with other people. Okay, which is it? Here's Andy McCarthy reacting on the Fox News channel to the FBI and just how wrapped around their own gears they are.
Why not call it terrorism right off the bat? They found an ISIS flag in the guy's car.
Rich, that makes too much sense. You'll never make it at the FBI. Look, this has been going on, sadly, for decades now. Basically, they've drawn this line in order to keep ideology in a black box. So unless they instantly come up with information that ties somebody operationally to a known notorious terrorist organization, they take the position that it's not terrorism. And the reason for that is they don't want to be perceived as drawing a link between Islamic doctrine and violence. So I think they go out of their way to try to resist that conclusion, even though in this case you can see it was a common sense conclusion.
Yeah, but do you think that they take the same tact if a Christian had bombed an abortion clinic? Do you think they would? Do you think they'd hesitate? Not sure if it's terrorism. Let's wait for the facts to come in. No, not for a moment. They'd be all over that. Biden would be doing a national address to that effect. And yet, let's see. Philip is calling in from Manassas, line 3. Hello, Philip. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that the FBI and all these things that are happening in our federal government is by any way accidental or incompetence. The communist mindset has taken over the federal government, and they don't want to let go of power. You can vote in socialism and communism, but you have to shoot your way out of the darn thing. Mm-hmm. So they're doing exactly what they want to do. They obviously are targeting conservatives. They're targeting people that want to be free. They're targeting people that want to stop them from from taking over all these institutions. So you can see that it is not a incompetence situation. It is a concerted effort on their part to stop us from being able to live our lives without the government in it.
I will say, Philip, it strikes me that it's not an either or. Why not both is really kind of how I view it. This is how you end up with the lady with the nose ring telling us it wasn't terrorism, or that local cop down in New Orleans, the police superintendent, who didn't even know they had vehicle blocking mobile devices. I didn't know we had those. She said, well, they're up now. Well, what good does that do us now? So I think you're right. There is some combination of malice and moron going on here, and it needs to be rooted out entirely. Philip, thank you. Good call. Yeah, no, I'm not discounting the absolute betrayal among the people who know what they're doing. Not discounting that at all. Coming up, we'll be joined by a couple of congressmen. Congressman Andy Biggs is going to talk to us about that big speaker vote today. He didn't signal his vote for Mike Johnson, not until the very end of that round. We'll talk to him about why. And then Congressman Scott Perry is also here to explain why Liz Cheney just received a high presidential honor. It must be because of all of her good work.